Hey garden friends, welcome back to Flower Patch. Today we are going to discuss poppies, the different varieties, how you can grow them in your garden with success, and how to start them from seed, especially in winter. So, poppies. I even brought me a list of the different types so that I didn't forget one. So I have grown California poppies. Let me see, what do they call them in here? Estol, I can't pronounce it. Estolesia californica, which is the California poppy. Now, you may be familiar with the orange, but they also come in white and pink and like peachy tones too. So I think there's even some that are closer to red than orange. So there's a variety of colors, and what's great about those is they are drought tolerant. So once established in your garden, for me, they reseed readily. They reseed themselves, come up all over. I just edit out where I don't want them. I let them go crazy and just let them do their thing. My door is broken. I didn't notice that till just now. Huh. Okay, another fix to be done in here. So, different types of poppies. There's the opium poppy, Papaver somniferum. Totally mispronouncing this, I'm sure. But they are, they get really big, and they put out leaves at first that resemble thistles. And why I remember that distinctly is because one year I pulled a bunch up thinking they were weeds, and then realized it is where I sowed a bunch of the opium poppy. Yeah, the opium poppies. And also the oriental poppies, I did the same. So you got to be careful. Remember where you put them. Let me see, there's also the common poppy or the corn poppy. Those are the ones that are famous for, Memorial Day, for the red poppies all over Flanders Field. They also call them Flanders poppy. I'm pretty sure common poppy or corn poppy, yeah. It says, yeah, symbol of remembrance and often associated with World War I memorials. Yeah, so that one also reseeds readily and just comes back every year in my garden. And also the Papaver common poppy, they come in different colors too. Really, really pretty. I already covered the oriental poppy, the California poppy, the Himalayan blue poppy. Now that one's supposed to be pretty tough and challenging to grow. I would really like to give growing it from seed a try. I just haven't located any seeds yet. Then there's the Iceland poppy. So all these beautiful, and you may be familiar, those ones that really got the papery type flower petals, and they bloom in the cooler climates. But basically starting them all from seed are about the same. At least they have been for me, except I can't speak for the Himalayan blue poppy. But the bread poppies, which I think are also the same as the opium poppies, I'd have to look at it. Let me see, do I have my bread poppy seeds here? Yeah. In my video, when I did some other winter sowing, I'll post that up here. I sowed these directly on top of the snow. So these are, let me see if it has the name on them. It just says bread poppy. It doesn't say Hungarian bread seed poppy. But I'm pretty sure they're the same as the, I'll have to look that up and put it across the screen for you. But yeah, I went out a week or so ago and I spread them on top of the snow. And it was supposed to start raining, and so it was going to rain and rain them in. They like being sown in the winter. Mine have gone to seed in the fall and fall into the ground and come up. Let me throw this away. Excuse the beep, beep, beep out there. There's some tree guys out there, and they are working. So when they back up, you get to hear the beep, beep, beep all day long. So let us go ahead and sow some poppies. Now in here, I've already sowed some of these, are the Lauren's grape poppy. And then in this bag is some of the oriental poppies from, my sister brought these from some of my mom's plants that she has in her front garden. And then this one, now I can't remember what this one was called. I will put it across the screen. I got it at Annie's Annuals, and it is a true perennial poppy that doesn't just bloom the springtime or the one-time short time bloom. This blooms all summer long as you deadhead it. I had bought the one at Annie's Annuals. Absolutely loved it. Beautiful orange, bloomed nonstop all summer long. And then it reseeded. And I was so thrilled. Right close to it, and I was going to transfer some of the seedlings. But before I could do that, the gophers came and ate them all. And I was so upset. So I'm going to start some of these winter sowing. And I will plant them out in areas that are more protected. So that's what I'm going to do with these. So I do the same thing as I do with all my winter sowing, is I go ahead and fill with my quality potting soil. I've been looking into getting my bulk compost, so I can start making my own again. But I just fill my container, my seed starting container. Should I put you down a little bit? It looks like you're a little high. Let me point you down a little. Okay, that's better. You can see a little more. It might cut my head off, but that's okay. All right, so now down here we have our potting soil mix. I will first go with the Oriental Poppies. Now these were a peachy color, really pretty. And there's a ton of seeds in here. Let me get rid of the chaff. This is with the seed. Well, maybe there's some seeds stuck on it, so I'll scrape it over top of that first. Make sure I'm not losing even one seed. So here's another pod. Oh yeah, lots of seeds in there. She just pulled the pods off and threw them in the bag for me. And the seeds are so microscopic just about that, yeah, a little pinch goes a long way. So I'm reaching down in here, and you can see they're all over my fingers. Is it focusing for you? I don't think it is. Let me put my face back there. Yeah, there we go. See, all over my fingers. And I'm going to sprinkle these in here. Now this should be enough to get going. And there's still tons more in here. In fact, I probably should throw a few more in there just because I have so many here. She'll get more next year. I had some last year. I didn't, they bloomed later for me. So I didn't get to collect the seed pods. I just left them out there. So maybe they'll reseed themselves. So close that up. And I'm just going to press them down in the soil. Now poppies, like some others, especially tiny, tiny seeds, they don't need to be covered. They need light to germinate. I got a little green thing in there. And I'm just firming them down with the back of a spoon. Very sophisticated garden tool. And then I will tape it shut with my garden tape. Now we'll go out and I'll show you again where I'm going to plant some others. In fact, maybe half of the ones that I said I got from Annie's Annuals, maybe I'll put half of those out in this one flower bed that has mesh under it. It's a raised bed, and so it has the hardware cloth underneath it that prevents the gophers from getting into it. I didn't really plant anything in it last year, but tomatoes did volunteer. I had one of my favorite cherry tomatoes come up in it called Camp Joy. And it grew, the raised bed is like 2 boards like this, and the tomato grew from between the boards. Sometimes plants amaze me. So, got a lot of traffic going on out there today. So, but it's those tree guys going back and forth. Thought they were kind of done because it was quiet, but they probably were just taking lunch. So let me find my marker. I had everything right here handy. I come out a little bit every day. I don't do all my winter sowing at once. I come out and do a few things because I'm in the middle of book work for corporate year-end paperwork. I did my painting tutorial of my baby Highland cow yesterday, so I'll put Oriental Poppy. So I've got a lot of things going on. I need to wash my windows. It's very sunny today after several days of rain. And you know how that shows up? How dirty your windows are. And I love clean windows. That's just something that, I don't know, that is just right for me. I love clean windows. I can look out into my garden. So, Oriental Poppy. I'll put Mom on it. Moms. So, this will go out with my other winter sowing jugs. We'll walk out there and we'll take a look at all of them when we go out to spread some seeds right directly on the soil. So, that's petunia. I'm going to put in this tray right here some petunia seeds. My other petunias, even though they got that mold on it from the soil did from the neem seed meal I put in it, they're doing okay so far. So far they're doing okay. So it wasn't a type of mold that attacks seedlings, obviously, so far. Okay, so this is my little orange one that I said was perennial and comes up so well and blooms nonstop. I think it would go well with next to some salvias because the orange with the purple and blue, or blue, I think that would just be gorgeous. Because many poppies don't have a long blooms time. Though I did find that my Oriental poppies, when I deadhead them, they would keep blooming. It just would be very sporadic. It wouldn't be a whole bunch. You'd have to wait. You'd have to be very patient. But they would rebloom. And they were just so striking in the garden. In fact, my intro for my videos is one of my Oriental poppies that I winter sowed. Now, that's one thing about poppies. They will say they prefer, I had it stuck under my finger now. They prefer to be direct sown and not because they don't like root disturbance. And that's probably very true, but don't be afraid to do it anyways, because I've done it. I even had to transplant an Oriental poppy once because it was in an area that it needed to be moved from. I still got more in there, and I will sow those out in the garden. The rain has washed away most of the snow. Again, I'm just firming down the soil with the seeds that I spread on top. Now, some people will say add vermiculite. You can, but being out in the garden, they stay moist enough for me. So, now I look up the name of this poppy. I have a video of it too. Orange. And I'm just going to, because at this moment I don't know the name of it, I am going to put Annie's Annuals because I remember it from there. I want to take another trip to Annie's Annuals. I have quite a list, and they carry many things that no one else carries as far as plants. And you could order and have them shipped to you as well. But thankfully, they're just a 3-hour drive from me, and my husband's wanting to take a road trip, so I will try and make that part of it. He's really wanting to go down to, he just said this morning, he'd like to go down to the San Diego Zoo, and he wants to do Disneyland and California Adventure again. He does enjoy that. Even though we're not kids anymore, we do enjoy it. In fact, his mom and dad, excuse me. In fact, his mom and dad used to go every year for their anniversary. They loved it too. So, we just might do that. Okay. One thing great about it is there's always beautiful plantings and gardens. San Diego Zoo even has different botanical garden areas. That is really, really neat, and I'll make sure to take you on along with that. But it's just beautiful to walk through, and it's usually, by the time we'll get to go, it'll be in the 70s there, and just beautiful, just very nice. Okay, I will write it. I always write it also on the tape below, this duct tape. This is orange poppy. I think I just spotted seeds of these you could buy. I have to double check that they're the same one. Annie's. Okay, so that is how I winter sow the poppies. Did I winter? I don't think I winter sowed any of the Lawrence grape. I think I will do that. So I'll just get through this really quick. I want the Lawrence grape. They're big and beautiful, and let me get some more soil into my thing. Whoops. Well, that was a little bit messy, Pam. It's okay. I'm always messy. Alrighty. That's why I have this in here, my trusty dusty little broom. Well, I guess I could sweep it right into one of these, huh? Alrighty, fill up the jug. I've almost used up all the ones my sister gave me, so I'll have to hit her up for some more. I am determined to do a lot more of the winter sowing this year, and when it comes closer to spring, I will also do some spring sowing like this. It's when it's warmer, and then I can do warmer weather plants, because I can put them in here, like zinnias, cosmos, what else is warm weather that a lot of people try to plant too early. They'll try to do real winter sowing. I mean, do it in winter with those seeds, and those you won't get a lot of success. You may get lucky, but zinnias, cosmos, and those, they like it warmer. And if you get a spring like ours, where it'll be very, very warm for a week, or maybe even 2, and then all of a sudden you will get hit with severe cold again. I mean, down to the 30s. That would just wipe out those seedlings, and does. Very, very quickly. And I was just watching a video where one gal was talking about she did winter sowing and her big fails and it didn't work. And what did she sow? Zinnias, cosmos, and other warm weather plants, which, yep, I can guarantee you, you will have a lot of failures with that. You can, as I said before, depending on where you're at and how you do it, you can have successes, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to get them weird late freezes, and they are not going to like it. So unless you want to run them inside when you have a cold snap, and that's not the ease of winter sowing, or this method of sowing. Now, zinnias, once it warms up, cosmos too, many times you can direct sow them right out in the garden, and they'll do great. Last year, I didn't have a good success with that because we had such a cool summer. And I usually do them out front, a whole big long line of zinnias, and I did the cosmos too. I mean, they barely got going by September. And I had to reseed them a couple times, but our June was so cold. In fact, we got down into the 30s some nights in June. So that's why they just didn't do well. Okay, so that was my Lauren's grape. I already sowed a bunch of these out here when I did the Hungarian bread poppy. So I'm hoping to get a lot of those poppies. And these seeds are the ones I saved from the ones that grew last year. And thankfully the gophers didn't get to these, even though they were not protected. But I'll be sure and sow some in a protected area. And I think I'm going to do it right out here beside the greenhouse. I just heard a big old tree fall, so they must be falling some big trees. They come around and they do that when they are threatening the power lines and or are a danger to surrounding homes. And we are all very thankful for that, because just a couple of years ago, a poor little girl, 6 years old, was killed in her bed by a large tree, pine tree that fell on their house. Now, yeah, that's a danger here, and if they know which ones are more of a danger than others and can take them down. Some people who are from out of the area and move up here, they will not allow them to take them down. Yeah, and then it can cause tragedy like that. They don't understand the danger that they pose when they become damaged or disease-ridden or whatever. They really become a threat then. I have pictures or a little video of where a neighbor's tree fell on our garage. Thankfully, we had almost 3 feet of snow on top of it, and it buffered the fall enough that it just dented our gutters. Yeah, so, okay, so this is Lauren's grape. Lauren's grape poppy. So we can talk about a little bit on how you take care of poppies in the garden through the summer. And let me get my notes to make sure I don't forget anything. First of all, as soon as these are big enough, what I do, rather than taking out each individual plant, I will take out clumps of soil. I will just break it up into maybe 5 or 6 clumps, and then put those clumps into the soil and plant them out. Now, right then, it's a survival of the fittest, and whatever makes it, and they do beautifully. But if I was probably to pull them apart separately, they may get traumatized, as they say. They don't like the root disturbance. So And usually there's so many, that would be so tedious. But you know what? Part of it this spring, maybe I will individually pot some up and see how well they do. You never know until you try. So, okay, there's the 3 type of poppies I have right now. And even though I said I wasn't going to order seeds, I did. I found this white poppy that the seeds were from Sissinghurst in England, at the famous gardens there. And I had to have it. I've wanted a white poppy. I really want a white oriental poppy, but I haven't been able to find the seeds for one. Usually you'll get seed packets and it's a mix. And for some reason I'll get every color but white. But anyways, so I'm going to look on here about care, just so I don't forget anything. I made a list. So poppies, they want well-drained soil and a sunny location. My oriental poppies, some of them were in a part shade, but what it was morning sun and then afternoon shade, and they did okay in that. They don't like to be waterlogged, so be careful with watering. So, yeah, this talks about sowing seeds. They don't really like being transplanted, so if you can put them in an area or just direct sow them, that works great. Water regularly, but be careful not to overwater. And many of them are drought tolerant once they get established, so just keep that in mind. Feeding, well, I am really big on regenerating your soil and letting it feed your plants. So that means compost. You don't have to do a lot, just an inch or 2. I actually dump some of my chicken litter in the fall out on my garden beds, and it composts over the winter, and I've had success with that. Why I'm laughing is one year, because I always heard that if you dumped fresh chicken litter on a flower bed, it would burn out the plants, kill them. And I did it one year up in my upper front garden, and I wanted to kill all the plants out of there because I was going to start from scratch, clean slate. So I thought, I'll do this easy. And I dumped like 6 inches of fresh litter from my chicken pen on that bed. Well, come the next spring, it hadn't killed a thing. They all grew massive. And I thought, oh. So I looked it up and everything. Well, of course, if you put it out in fall, things are not drawing up nutrients. It's too cold, whatever. And then by spring, all that excess nitrogen that could burn the plants has been composted away or leached away from the water, whatever. And the worms have gone crazy. You should have seen the worms I had in that bed. But so lesson learned, I use my chicken litter in fall and scatter it around, and I have beautiful soil the next spring. You do not need to keep fertilizing your plants in your soil if you take care of them, if you take care of your soil. Because when you overfeed, then you create a pest problem. So when you see people always pouring in fertilizer, I have a whole thing coming up on starter fertilizers. They send out all this lush green growth that's really yummy to all the pests flying overhead, and they can zero in on it as they're looking down, and then you're inviting pests, and you don't need it. You just need to have good, strong plants, which brings up their own nutrients from the soil. They know exactly how much they need. If you have healthy soil, they'll get what they need. You don't need to keep pouring on either synthetic or even organic liquid fertilizers. I do use some organic liquids, but I put those in my containers because the containers, of course, they can't draw up nutrients from around the soil. Okay, that's my spiel on feeding your poppies. Don't. That's basically it. And then pruning and deadheading. Yes. Well, let me finish the thought first. I have a tendency to jump. So you remove the faded flowers before they go to seed, and that will give you more blooms, even with the oriental poppies. But the seed heads on a lot of them are just as lovely as the flowers, and you may want that. Plus, once they've dried, if you get them before they blow over, then you can collect the seeds like I have here and then plant more elsewhere. And they are very generous with their seeds. So pretty much, I've not had any pest problems on my poppies. I do not have Japanese beetles yet here in my garden. I haven't seen them around. I'm sure they're going to make it to this part of California sooner or later. But so far, we're doing good. So one thing I love about poppies is they're super easy. Anyone can grow them. Now, to cut them for cut flowers, there's a special process you need to go through, like sear the ends off. Some people do that by dipping them in boiling water, the end after it's been cut. And that's how they will last in a vase. But even then, they don't last very long. So for cut flowers, I think a lot of cut flower growers, they use the pods, the seed pods, as the portion that they cut to put in bouquets. So now that we've talked all through that, let's go put these out in the garden, and then I will go and spread some of these seeds where they will be protected and have a chance to come up. And we'll see, we'll compare which one does better, the winter sown or the ones direct sown in the winter in the soil. So, okay, even though this area is still a wreck, and I haven't gotten out here, like I said, we've had nonstop rain for days, but that helped to melt most of the snow. But this little raised bed down here is got the wire mesh under it, like I said, and is protected. Now there's still snow in it because a lot of the snow stacks up here from coming off the roof of the greenhouse. But I am going to sow my orange little poppy. I know it's cutting my head off, huh? Oh well. No big deal. I guess I could make it lower, but I'm just putting the rest of them in there. Make sure I get them all out. I'm not too worried because as the rain and stuff comes down, it's going to move these about. So there was the rest of the oriental poppies, the peachy ones. Now this becomes a really hot spot in the summer, but I could put some kind of shade over it if it's too much for the poppies. And also, by the time it gets that hot, a couple of them will already be done blooming and going to seed. And then also the ones like the orangey poppies that I set a perennial and keep blooming, I can put something in here that's taller that can provide a little bit of shade because the sun comes directly over here during the midsummer, and then it is shaded by the time fall comes around. And even this time of year, the sun's over there. Now I have so many of these Lawrence grape poppies that I'm just going to sprinkle some of them. As I said, when you get the seeds from your poppies, they are just so generous. I'm going to go ahead and sow some more over here. I don't know if you can see this. I don't know. Can you see down here? This is where a tomato came out between those boards. So, yeah, there we go. We got all those poppies sown, and hopefully I will remember I did that. And not try to plant something there. Well, I will plant things there, but I will have room for them, for sure. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video on sowing poppy seeds in the winter, whether it's in the jugs or direct sowing. And also, like I said, I planted some in front of this wall that goes in front of the, it's actually the retaining wall for the greenhouse walkway and stuff. And that, we'll see how that does too this coming spring. That is another very warm spot. So both of these spots, I should see poppies coming up before I do the ones that reseeded themselves out in the garden last fall, because it's just a warmer spot. So we'll see how that works. And you saw me put my jugs out there where all the other jugs are. I'm getting quite the collection. And I will be sowing more things. Like I said before, I'm going to be sowing tons of winter sowing just because, you know, a lot of people don't have the lights set up, etc., or even like the electricity has gotten so expensive. And maybe it's just too expensive for them to do it that way, and I understand. So come spring, closer to spring when it's warming up, I will do more of the winter sowing method, but it won't be winter. So I'm going to try some warmer weather ones. I'm even going to try a test run on some tomato seeds. And I know others have successfully grown tomato seeds, and I know it can work because in my little DIY greenhouse last year, I had tomato seedlings coming up from the ground, and I thought it was too cold for them too. So they had sat there all winter and then came up in the spring. So why wouldn't it work in the jugs? So I'm going to give that a try as well, and we'll see how that turns out. All right, I will see you in the next video.